What's good, peeps? It's your boy Hes Pete, bringing you another dosage of positive vibes. I have a question for you guys. Do any of you ever feel like your voice as a patient is undervalued? I went to a work conference in Philadelphia about a couple of weeks ago, and I gained so much knowledge about what it really means to be a patient advocate. And it got me thinking about how important our stories are to other patients, but how undervalued they are to the medical community. In my experience, and I'm sure many of you can attest to this, when I used to see doctors or specialists in the past and I would try to explain my issues, many would just interrupt me in the middle of my story and quickly jump to conclusions before I can even finish what I was saying. And then many of those same doctors would just throw prescriptions at me as if that would solve all my problems. It was like they were just trying to rush me out of their office just so they could move on to the next patient. They weren't really trying to listen to my story. In the past, I've even had a doctor tell me to suck up the pain because you're a big boy. So because I'm a male, I'm just expected to deal with the pain and go about life as normal? Boys and men having to bottle up their pain and just deal with it is a whole nother topic on its own. But that just further proves my point, that our voices as patients are undervalued. Another example of how I feel our voices are undervalued, you ever turn on the TV and an infomercial about a drug treatment comes on, and for some reason there's an actor posing as a patient of the disease that the treatment is for? There's hardly any real patients on TV ads, right? Or say you're watching the news or a talk show, and it's a segment where they're talking about health, but specifically debilitating conditions. And it's usually a discussion with a doctor or a medical expert, but you never really get the perspective of the patient that's actually living with the condition. And if there is a segment with the real patient, they'll sometimes have sad music playing in the background while they're telling their story. And it's usually told from a very sad perspective. Now, I'm not trying to discount those stories because they are important. However, I just want to hear more and different perspectives from the patients. I want to hear perspectives on how to cope with the disease. What lifestyle changes do I need to make in order to better manage my symptoms? How do I maintain a positive outlook on life while I'm living with this disease? I want to learn about natural remedies that patients have tried. I want to learn about the exercises that works for them, and so on and so forth. There's not a variety of information out there because patients never really get a chance to fully share their experience with their condition. I honestly feel like the voice that has been missing the most in any discussion regarding the topic of disease or illness is the voice of the actual patient that suffers from it. Why don't we value the voices of patients as much as we value those of medical experts? I just believe that doctors and patients should always be working together. That's just my opinion. With that being said, recently I dealt with an experience where I felt my voice as a patient was undervalued. I'm not going to give too much detail, but I was offered an opportunity to be a part of a discussion regarding IBS. And I was going to be given a certain stipend for attending. This event is supposed to be hosted by a pharmaceutical company. I'm not going to give any names. Now, for those of you who don't know this by now, sharing my IBS story is how I make a living. And I didn't feel that the stipend that they were offering was enough incentive for me to share my valuable story and to have to suffer through the symptoms of my condition while at the event. So, to make a long story short, I counter-offered with my own personal fee. They felt they couldn't accommodate it, and that's pretty much the end of it right there. We didn't move forward. Again, sharing my IBS story is how I make a living. This is how I get to put clothes on my back, food on the table, a roof over my head. And I felt like what they were offering told me that they undervalued my voice and my time as a patient. I'm not one to usually compare, but I wonder what they were offering the doctors and the medical experts that were going to attend this event. You know, one thing I learned throughout this experience is that if any company asks you to tell your story, depending on the circumstances, they are also asking for the rights to share your story however they see fit. And if that's the case, then we deserve to be compensated for sharing our valuable story about our condition. And because I consider myself a patient advocate, and I'm learning to be a better one, of course I'm going to demand that not only just my, but every single invisible illness be taken seriously. And of course I'm going to demand that my voice and every other patient's voice be valued just as much as the opinion of a medical expert. Because like I said, the fact that we live with our condition every single day makes us experts too. Patient stories matter because it's a way to get a better understanding of a disease or illness. It may take a patient a few times to tell their story in order to get adequate details of how the disease actually impacts their life. But nonetheless, it's a narrative that is significant for many reasons. Many patients are afraid to open up about their disease or illness because they're never really given a chance to express themselves without fear of being judged or interrupted. Therefore, so much is missed and misunderstood when the patient isn't given the opportunity to tell the whole story. There's power in telling our story because we allow the scary to not be so scary anymore. We allow ourselves to open up and become more familiar with our disease, which can create a sense of self-awareness that is very important when it comes to managing our health. Also, being able to speak out loud to others can allow for a better analysis from the actual patient and the other person that is listening. So if you're going to ask about our pain, then we need everyone, especially medical experts, to really listen and not waste our time. The whole point of this video is that patients' voices matter and should be valued when there's a conversation going on about our condition. Okay, guys? So your voice matters, but more so than that. We have to start creating communities of people, whether online or in person, who actually get it and can relate to our experiences. Patients finally have a way to connect to one another through platforms such as YouTube, Health Union, which is a company I write for, and even Facebook. And when we get the opportunity to share our stories through these kinds of platforms, we actually feel like we're in a safe place where we won't be judged and people will actually listen to us, which helps validate our everyday struggles and gives us a sense of support. That is why I always tell you guys when I respond to some of your comments that you will always have support here. After all, we're the Positive Vibes family, baby. Alright folks, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please share my videos. Help me reach other people with invisible illnesses. Help me spread more positive vibes. Help me extend the Positive Vibes family, baby. Alright? So, as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And remember, be surrounded by nothing but positive vibes. Peace.